The city is a visual collection of symbols, and this way of perceiving it is explicit and real in the Tianjin concession. 100 years ago, 9 countries set up concessions in Tianjin. Russia, Italy, Britain, Belgium, the United States, Germany, Austria, Japan, France. Surveillance cameras typically provide what is considered an objective viewpoint. I found it challenging to find surveillance footage of Tianjin online due to policy reasons. However, when these real scenes from different countries intertwine with my memory of the Tianjin concession space, this familiarity makes me realize the Tianjin concession is a microcosm of global history. Surveillance footage can connect different geographical spaces, revealing the similarities or differences between various regions. Being in different lands, I still find familiarity in those architectural lines, weaving a memory space about Tianjin on a visual imagery level. When I observe these countries, even the citizens, through a live internet webcam, my gaze allows me to enter a space with a fence. And my gaze certainly gives me the advantage of being able to observe every movement of passers-by without them being able to resist. Surveillance is like a metaphor for colonial power structures. Tianjin is my hometown, a city I had never left before I started my postgraduate studies in the UK. The UK is 9,000 kilometers away from Tianjin, spanning across Asia and Europe. However, upon my arrival in the UK, I found the environment not as unfamiliar as I had imagined. The architectural and landscape features of Tianjin city bear many similarities to European architecture, which gives me an unexpected sense of dislocation. When we discuss the sense of belonging, it's often associated with people who frequently migrate and grow up in different countries. However, for me, I've always felt a lack of belonging, which is strange considering I have not often moved or grown up in different countries. This emotional disconnection and fracture prompted me to scrutinize the impact of the external environment on me. Despite growing up in the familiar city of Tianjin, I found myself feeling confused and isolated in terms of cultural identity. The recording of surveillance can be seen as a form of memory. It preserves images of events and scenes that have occurred, allowing for the past moments to be revisited and reviewed. Surveillance usually takes place in public spaces, capturing public events and activities. The recorded footage is often used to construct public or collective memories. This contrasts with personal memories, which are reconstructed from individual experiences and feelings. And my memory, the history of the Tianjin concession is more than just a chapter in history textbooks. It also includes some personal stories. The relationship between collective memory and personal memory is often complex and subtle. Collective memory is like a public monument of a city, shaping history into a common narrative, creating a shared past. Museums and history books allow collective memory to be preserved and passed on. However, only the stories of significant events and important figures are circulated, forming the framework of our collective historical consciousness. On the other hand, personal memories might be conversations with old neighbors, faded photos in family albums, or old-time tunes from the radio on some evenings. They imbue seemingly ordinary places and objects with emotional value. Personal memories may be non-linear and illogical, but they can make history vivid and concrete. But if collective memory doesn't match individual memory, then who should we trust? Everyone in Tianjin knows what the concession means, but our personal memories are changing with time, societal, and cultural shifts. The invasion of China by the Eight-Nation Alliance seems too distant for me, yet the ghosts of the war still linger around residents of different eras in various forms. TikTok has become the most popular WeMedia platform among Chinese users. On TikTok, residents of Tianjin from different age groups have varying emotions and narratives about the concession. For elderly people around the age of 80, their memories of life in the concession are mostly filled with humiliation and pain.
我父亲呐是拉胶皮的，走到日本，你其实都是咱中国地盘，他不让中国人走。走到日本租界。到他那儿，他出来在港州出来拿大口的卖车推大车。我父亲躺了多长时，那阵儿也没钱看，就弄点鸡蛋清子麸，把那中国人。逮着给弄化工招化工，给那化工搁到车里头，大闷的车死多少人呢？也说害咱中国人。逮着啊，你吃偷吃稻米了，就把你绑那个桩上的，他都弄那鬼子洋刀砍脑袋，说那个脑袋掉地下嘛，啃有的都刮刮，他没死啊，他那多快呀！偷着也不敢吃，它有味儿了，像那米嘛倍儿香，谁要买饭都老远闻的。
Middle-aged residents of Tianjin recall the Tianjin Minyuan Stadium, formerly a football field in the British concession, witnessing the most glorious era of Tianjin football in the 1970s. During the Cultural Revolution, this football field was used for public trials and mobilization meetings.
我从小开始长大的，我们在学校时候，我们每年是搞这个活动，我们都在这儿参加，知道吗？各项体育活动我们都在嘛都玩，过去嘛都玩，过去都是武装训练都是，过去都是武装，我们都发枪，我们在学校就发枪，我们都在这儿训练在这儿。你说这足球呢？以前你就中学场子、中学场我都有打，不是我们那还在学校里，在学校这个足球场知道吗？这也是人英国足球场，这是这不有个用的。听外边这个给你讲那个，别听他们。当。
For my generation, the concession is a commercial district with beautiful architecture, stylish restaurants, and a great place for dating. But how are the memories of a generation shaped? In these images, collective memory is woven. What we see and feel from the media gradually becomes the way we perceive the world. And there is a subtle tension between these different narratives of the same event. How these different memories coexist and interact with each other becomes the key to our understanding of this complex world. The most interesting point is that in shaping the collective memory, all of them use the local residents or locals to support their own statements, as if the first-hand materials obtained by penetrating into each other's interior are the most authentic.
As the Winter Olympics got underway in Beijing, President Putin of Russia was the star guest, meeting President Xi Jinping before the official opening. China and Russia announced a new partnership, with China saying it'll back Russia's foreign policy aims and saying it supports Russian demands that NATO halt its expansion. That is seen as an implicit reference to the situation in Ukraine. Mr. Putin hailed the agreement as an unprecedented pact of cooperation. President Xi and Vladimir Putin held their talks hours before the opening of the Games, which had a relatively low-key ceremony amid concerns about COVID and a diplomatic boycott over human rights abuses. From Beijing, Robin Brandt reports.
There's been a friendly relationship that he and the others around him at the top of the Communist Party now think they can show more support for Moscow, and in return, Vladimir Putin knows he can increasingly rely on China, the world's second biggest economy.
Robin, thank you. Robin Brandt reporting.
Today, the President announced and authorized another presidential drawdown of security assistance
colleague Jambaski to tell me any circumstance in which NATO has played a productive role or delivered peace anywhere. Because the more arms you pump into Ukraine, the more the war will be prolonged, the more Ukrainians can die. And it might sound radical, colleagues, but the answer to war is not more war, it's peace. And peace isn't delivered by the barrel of a gun, it's delivered by diplomacy, by dialogue.
This woman tells me she hopes Russia wins the war, but peace is best.
Primary
Another woman says the war and loss of life is heartbreaking and painful to watch.
Now,
She says it's wrong for America to send weapons to Ukraine, and she believes in Xi Jinping's vision of world peace. When I ask her what she thinks of Putin, she answers that he's righteous, decisive, swift, and tough. But when I follow up and ask if she's heard of the ICC issuing an arrest warrant for Putin, she responds, I didn't know. He started the war after all. He should sit down with Zelensky and talk. This shoe repairman says, why are they fighting? It doesn't do anybody good. But we don't know who started the war, he adds. It's the Ukrainians, right?
Memory tends to seek spatial expression, a function indeed served by monuments. However, as monuments provide this spatial representation, they also initiate a new phase of memory, which, if not sustained by continuous symbolic reinvestment, may begin the process of forgetting. This is why, as eras change, monuments and buildings symbolizing authority are often the first to be transformed or erased. At the intersection of Jifang South Road and Pukou Road in Tianjin today, Pukou Road was formerly known as Monument Street. This crossroad was once the William Square of the German concession, where a statue of Roland stood. It symbolized victory and occupation in the Tianjin concession. However, in 1918, with Germany's defeat in World War I, the expatriates from Britain, France, America, and other nations in the Tianjin concession pulled down the statue with ropes. And since then, the monument has disappeared. Similarly, at the southern end of the French Park in the French concession of Tianjin, there once stood a statue of the peace goddess, also known as the French Saint Joan of Arc. During World War II, when the French concession in Tianjin was completely occupied by Japanese forces, the statue of Joan of Arc was also melted down by the Japanese to make bombs. Later on, in 1995, on the 100th anniversary of the birth of the patriotic General Ji Hongchang, relevant departments decided to commemorate this martyr by erecting a statue of Ji Hongchang in Central Park, brandishing his sword while mounted on a leaping horse. The statue of Ji Hongchang was placed on the former site of the Joan of Arc statue. Street names also serve as a means of shaping memory and providing commemoration. During the Tianjin concession period, street names were used as a boast of land ownership in an area. These past street names act like a mirror of colonization, reflecting the memory of the homeland in the colonizers' minds. Take the British concession as an example. There were a total of 73 roads. Most of the street names in the British concession of Tianjin can also be found in the United Kingdom. The names of these roads, along with the architecture, turned the Tianjin concession into a blurred mirror space. Recreation Road. The name Recreation Road typically indicates a location associated with entertainment or leisure. In the British concession of Tianjin, there used to be a playground on Recreation Road, but it has now been replaced by government offices. Bringing the name Recreation Road to Tianjin was also a way to promote British leisure culture, representing a form of cultural superiority. Today's Recreation Road has been renamed Xinhua Road which symbolizes the new China. Such street names are found in every city across China, highlighting the victory and change of the ruling powers. Bromley Road. Bromley is a district in London, UK. The British brought this name to Tianjin, likely to make the British residents there feel more at home and to better manage the area, making it easier for new residents or visitors from the UK to navigate and adapt within the Tianjin concession. Today, this road has been renamed Zhangde Road. Zhangde is a place name in Henan Province, China, now known as Anyang City, located on the south bank of the Yellow River. It is one of the important cradles of early Chinese civilization. Edinburgh Road. This road has now been renamed Chongqing Road. Chongqing, located in the southwest of China, is known as the Mountain City due to its complex terrain. The city is built on canyons and hillsides, with many buildings and roads having to adapt to the rugged terrain. Edinburgh's roads remind me very much of Chongqing, as Edinburgh is also built on several hills. It is worth mentioning that Edinburgh and Chongqing became sister cities on December 10, 1982. These roads, named after distant lands and colonial aspirations, paved the way for a new generation to understand and integrate the colonial heritage. Indeed, the colonial legacy encompasses not just the streetscapes and buildings, but also the psychological, cultural, and cognitive inheritances. At the southern end of Tianjin, on a land once barren, stands the Starshine Continent community. Envisioned as a global village to amalgamate architectural styles from around the world. This community stands as a testament to the colonial influence. The Starshine Continent community was a grand project aimed at showcasing global cultures and luxurious living. It was ambitiously planned to recreate the ambiance of the 5 continents on a total land area of 11,000 acres, envisioning a world-class leisure platform, international residential community, and a global tourist destination. The overall layout of the community was a scaled-down version of the world map, adjusted appropriately for spatial harmony. Construction of the Starshine Continent community commenced in the same year as the 2008 Olympics in China. The 2008 Olympics captivated global attention and showcased China's potential for international integration. Consequently, Tianjin's Starshine Continent community was once a key promotional project of the Tianjin government, envisioned as a resort aligned with international standards to attract international tourists. These ambitious plans, centered around the concept of the Chinese People's World Map, resonated well with the spirit of the 2008 Olympic year. However, this story is one of desolation. During the construction process, the so-called Global Village community, Starshine Continent, faced a mismatch between its ambitious scale and its financial operations, leading to a broken capital chain. This once heavily promoted international community by the Tianjin government, filled with incomplete buildings showcasing architectural styles from various countries, has been abandoned for years, becoming a symbol of failed promises and shattered dreams. All of this underscores a failed attempt. A city that endured colonization is ambitiously attempting to reinvent itself. While narrating the pain of its past, it strives to transform its complex history into a vibrant international metropolis. From a past of enforced colonization, characterized by foreign architecture and street names, to a present that proactively embraces and crafts these legacies. In recent years, a new real estate developer has taken over the construction of the remaining buildings in the Starshine Continent community, symbolizing Tianjin City's commitment to transformation and aspiration for the future. This effort signifies the city's determination to evolve into a modern, globalized urban center, recapturing the glory days when it was the most popular and internationalized port in northern China during the colonial era.